In this video we're going to look at creating a font using CorelDraw. There's a couple of things that I've done to start off with. First is I've set up the page size. So you can see that I've got the page border shown here. So if I go to View, Page, you can see the page border is selected. And I've also selected a very specific size of page. So if I go to Layout, Page Setup, you can see that the page that I've set up is a web page 960 pixels by 960 pixels. I'm not going to profess to knowing everything about how you go about creating fonts, etc. I just know that if I set the web page up at this size and I do the exports in the way that I'll show you later on, that the font that I create will create a 1-inch high letter I, as we would normally expect a letter I to appear at 1 inches. So if I look at the alphabet that I've got, it looks like these are a load of letters as far as we're concerned, but actually as far as Corel is concerned, these are just a bunch of curves. They are not letters at all. So if I go to here and I look at the letter I, you can see that I've set the letter I to be 960 pixels high. So all the rest of the letters will then fall into line based off the height of this letter I. So how do we go about creating a font from within CorelDraw? Well, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put the letter A in the middle of the page. So I'm going to go Object, and I'm going to go Align and Distribute, and I'm going to say Align to the center of the page horizontally. And you can see that I've got a shortcut key for that, which is Control-Shift-E. But I'm going to click this button to start off with. I'm now going to go File and Export. And one of the options when I go to the File Export is File Save by Type. You can see that I've got TTF. Chances are for you it will be appearing down here because it's one of my most recently accessed ones. So you can actually create a TrueType font directly out of Windows. So let's choose that. And I'm going to choose the file name which matches my file name here, and that means that I then don't have to come in and change anything every time I do things. So, and the final thing I'm going to say is that you only export the selected item. So you can see that I have the letter A selected, and I'm only going to be exporting that item. So I click Export, and it asks me, what does this file look like? Well, I'm going to say it's English Times is the family name, and it's just normal. It's not a bold font, so that's bold, extra bold, etc. So it's just a bold font. Grid size, I just leave these as the default. I can change the space width later on if I decide to do so. And grid size, I think, is linked to the font size overall and the way it appears. So I leave that as the default. I click OK. It says, do I want to save those? Yes, I do. And you now get a grid over here which has a list of all the characters in it. So you can see here's the character A, and I'm going to say that's the character that I'm going to be exporting. And if I click OK, I leave all these the same. If these aren't the settings that are on yours by default, then adjust them so that they are those settings, and it should mean that you end up with a font the right height at the end of it all. I click OK, and it's generated me the font. I now click Undo, and I select the letter B. For those that were watching, the shortcut key for centering it is Control-Shift-E, so I can press that without having to go to the menu options, and the shortcut for export is Control-E. And again, I just click Export, and this time I've now got a file there, so I have to overwrite it. Click Yes, and no prizes for guessing that I'm going to click the letter B. Click OK, Control-Z to undo, select the letter C, Control-Shift-E, Control-E, Enter, left, Enter. I've done this a few times, and I'm going to select the letter C, and we can just keep doing this until we've finished. If we actually look at the font that we've created so far, so we've just exported the A, B, C and D. If I just go to our new font directory, I've actually got backup turned on, but if you look at your English Times TTF, you can see that we've now created an A, a B, a C and a D. I haven't done the rest of those yet, and I haven't done any of the lowercase, so that's why the text here all looks the same. Don't worry about that A having a centre that's black rather than white. We will be addressing that later on when we go to doing the actual kerning and everything else that's associated with the font. If I now just quickly skip to one that I prepared earlier, so here's the one that I did earlier on, and you can see that I've done all of the letters, and again we've got an A which is black and a 4 which is black. I'm not worried, I'll sort those out later on. Let's imagine that those two letters were fine and we said, right, well, let's just install this. Is this font actually in a state where we could use it? Well, let's have a quick look and see. If I click install, then I can now go to CorelDraw and I should be able to find my new font, English Times. If I scroll down, I have a font, English Times. Looks very similar to the one that we created. I'm going to type in some text. So I'm just going to use my text tool and I'm going to type in A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N. That's not very big. Let's make that a bit bigger so we can see what we're doing. That's great. So I'm going to click here and I'm going to go and choose that font that we just created. Oh, not so great, not so great. We haven't messed around with this font yet. This is not going to look right until we've actually played around with kerning and all sorts of other things. It's to do with the display element of it. You can see that we've created the font here. We've got the A set up. But if you look at the spacings between the letters, you can see that there's a big gap around the letter I. The L and the M are touching together. Basically, it's a font that would just not work if we were to try and use it. So in order to do that, we go to another piece of software, and there's another video later on to explain how we go and look at kerning, how we look at letter spacing, in particular the key dimensions around letters.